Shalom, shalom. Thank you so much, Josh and Rachel, and everyone for your warm welcome, just for holding this space for us to continue to sit and breathe and heal and rest and be in this crazy and uncertain world. I'm always grateful to be here. And this week's parasha describes in great detail the ways in which the priest is charged with keeping the flame burning on the altar. And I know that that metaphor is resonant for many of us as we're trying to keep the flame of our own hearts and spirits burning. And so it's such a gift to be able to tend that flame here together. So friends, let's take our seat as we begin. Your eyes can be open or closed or anywhere in between. And let's just begin by breathing. Take a couple of clearing breaths in and out. And simply allow your breath to find some steadiness. Allow it to move naturally in the body. One of the ways we use our breath is to clear the path, to make connection feel a little more possible. Take a moment to thank yourself for showing up to your practice amidst all the things that we could be doing. And to thank each other and everyone who made it possible so that we could just be here in this constellation of human souls, co-creating a moment for connection to ourselves, to each other, to our source. And as we steady and center ourselves, I invite you to consider what you would like to connect to today. Maybe even finding a point of connection in the body. So body to chair or to cushion or mat. Connection of hand and heart, hand to belly, feet on the earth, thumb and forefinger, hand in hand, so many possible points of connection. Where can you find connection? And notice all the places where two things can become one. Take a moment to simply settle into that point of invitation, that point of connection, and feel it fully. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes if you close them. I'm going to offer some instruction and framing for a little bit of a longer sitting practice. So as I mentioned, this week's Parsha is Tzav, and it opens with God speaking to Moshe and instructing him to command Aaron and his sons. Tzav actually means command. I'll speak about that in a moment. With this ritual of the Olah, the burnt offering. And it starts with the words Tzav, et Aharon ve'et banav. Command Aaron and his sons thus, and goes on. And much of what follows describes the somewhat messy details of the sacrificial system, which can often be hard to relate to. But that idea of keeping the fire burning on the altar, I think, resonates for many of us. That Eish Tamid, that eternal flame, which constantly needs tending and sustained focus and energy. And in many ways, I think that's what we do here in our practice. But I actually want to focus on this word tzav, command. And I'm going to share some text in just a moment that Rachel can bring up for us. But first thing to know is that the word tzav comes from the Hebrew root tsadi vav he, and this is the same Hebrew root as the word for mitzvah, which many of us know, literally means commandment. In sort of colloquial, cultural, sort of Jewish terms, we often refer to a mitzvah as a good deed. And what I want to bring to our attention today is that in Aramaic, the language of many of our rabbinic texts, including the Talmud, the word tzav comes from the word tzavta, which means connection. And in many ways, I find this to be the most helpful translation. This idea of tzav, or mitzvah, or tzavta, as an opportunity or an invitation for connection. An invitation for connecting to holiness, connecting to God, maybe connecting to self, capital S. So I wanted to share a couple of texts, Hasidic texts, which I think bring this idea to life. The first is from the Kedushat Levi, and he teaches that when we examine the meaning of the word mitzvah, commonly translated as commandment, this is quite inadequate, as the deeper meaning of the word is derived from tzavta, just as I had shared earlier, a word describing companionship, connection, joining. In other words, the performance of a mitzvah is meant to establish a degree of companionship or connection between a person and the divine. And so too, the Meori Naim, Menachem Nachem of Chernobyl, he adds another layer of meaning, suggesting that not only is a mitzvah referencing the language of connection with the divine, but it's also the building block for more connection, as the reward for a mitzvah is another mitzvah. The fruit of the practice naturally bears more fruit. And the Meori Naim teaches, the rabbis of the Talmud said the reward for a mitzvah is a mitzvah. Mitzvah goreret mitzvah. That is to say that God gave us commandments so that we might thereby cleave to God. Thus, the reward for a mitzvah is mitzvah. That is tzavta, joining together for or by means of a mitzvah. One connects with God, and there is no greater reward in that. Thanks, Rachel. You can take the text down. So both of these texts really contribute to our understanding of the idea that tzav, mitzvot, provide us with opportunities for connection, for joining. And that's what I want to use as inspiration for our practice today. So let's sit. I invite you to build your seat once again from the ground up. So consider that your seat is not only something you're seated on, but as something that you can really plug into. And as you plug into the power of the earth, feel yourself being resourced. Allow the breath to become alive in the body. Feel your spine being lifted upward. Feel the rest of your body collaborating in that lift. And notice if you can also simultaneously bring some softening to accompany that strength and structure. Is there any part of the body that you can soften in this moment? We're using some gentle effort to create ease. So let's just breathe. And as we breathe, I invite you once again to notice where you sense an opportunity for connection. And I want to suggest that this is not something that you need to learn. The capacity for connection is already within you. You only have to remember it or remember it in the body. Allow each breath to be an invitation to tsav, to join, to bind, to connect and be connected. Allow the breath to lead you back into connection if you get lost along the way. So we'll continue sitting and I'll bring us back together with the sound of my voice. As we release from this practice, we place gratitude into our hands and our hearts. Gratitude for this invitation to connect with the breath, with our being, with our body, with this community, with love, with truth, with silence, with peace, with the divine. It's so easy to feel unmoored and disconnected. The world is predictably unpredictable. And yet we have chosen, each one of us, to reply to the invitation to connect here today, to be in connection. So may our sense of connectivity inspire us to keep choosing to connect rather than go it alone. Mitzvah goreret mitzvah. May each invitation to connect reward us and pave the pathway for us to connect once again. May our practice be in service of our own highest selves and the greater good in the world. The bridge to connect may feel narrow and fragile, but this practice reminds us that we can build that bridge from our breath, which is ever available to us as long as we're alive in this earth. Thank you for your presence and participation. I'll turn it back to Rabbi Josh for Kadishato.
Thank you. And we hope you can stay around at the top of the hour to have a conversation. If you need to leave us, we wish you Seitchem l'shalom, farewell. We'll be back tomorrow, same time and channel. In the meantime, Rachel, thank you, is putting the text for the Kaddish on the screen. If you're remembering someone today and want to include their name in the chat, you should feel welcome to do so. And you can unmute yourself and join in reciting the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabba be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon v'chayi d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala b'zman kariv v'imru amen. Shmei Rabba mevarach be'ala v'alma ya'almaya Tbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbarak v'yitramam v'yitkasei v'yithadar v'yit'alev v'yithalal shmei ubricho ela kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata Iran ba'alma v'yimru amen. Hey Shlama Rabba ben Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'Yisrael Shalom. Oseh Shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru amen.
Amen.
Okay. So thanks everybody. All right, and we'll bring Jenny back up here. And fantastic. All right. If you have a question and you wanna ask a question, please just put it all in the chat. Put it in all caps, question, so we can see it. Feel welcome, of course, to also respond to one another. But just we ask you to practice mindful speech. And so a good rule is no fixing is advising, saving, or correcting, but speaking for yourself and about your own experience. So thank you. So yes, if you have a question, just put it in all caps and we'll be able to see it that way. Jenny, thank you so much for that really beautiful teaching and on this very core concept of defining mitzvah, understand, not just defining, but like understanding and experiencing mitzvot not as only as commandment, which can often feel, I think, very externalized. There's a commander and there's we are commanded, and can be a fraught relationship that way.
Mhm.
But also pointing to the language, the Aramaic language of tzavta, connoting connection. Um, and I'm curious for folks who are for all of us who are here, how that what that does for you, how that lands for you, if that changes anything in your orientation, if that's new to you. I'm curious, to hear about that. It's a piece of Torah that I think we teach a lot here at IJS. It's pretty foundational. I guess I'd be curious, Jenny, for you. My guess is there was a time when you came into contact with that notion, that understanding of mitzvot, and how how it all, if at all, has that sort of altered or informed your own practice and your own sense of connection, connectedness.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I can't remember the specific moment, but I still have this sense of like what a revelation that was to learn and to continue. It just continues to animate my observance of mitzvot. I know I still appreciate the quality of commandedness, like especially in moments where a mitzvah is hard. Sometimes that sense, that quality of obligation is actually what I need to like energize myself to do the thing. Uh, but in most cases, that idea that this is an opportunity for connection in the times in which doing a mitzvah is easy and pleasant, or even when it's not easy and pleasant, that this is an opportunity for me to bring more sense of connection into the world. Like that just always, it's always helpful to me.
Hmm.
I can't think of an instance in which it's hurtful. And so it's I really appreciate it.
Mm, mm. Um, Great. There's some questions that have come in here. Uh, I want to, let's see here. Um, we'll stay on topic for a moment. We'll hold the off topic questions for a bit. Laura asked the question, "Can savta, that Aramaic rendering of mitzvah, can it refer to connection with others as well as connection to the divine, and also connection with the self?"
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love that it's all of the above. And of course, the whether we're thinking sort of with a Hasidic mindset that there's nothing but God, like it's all the same, really. It's all an illusion that underneath there is this inextricable web of connection, this oneness of being, or, even on a sort of pshat level, the simple meaning, I think, of Shema, which affirms this oneness of all being and existence. So, however you like connect to it, this idea that when I am connected to myself, I'm also connecting to my source. When I am creating connections, ben adam lechavero, one person to the other, I'm also creating connection with the divine. Each person is created in the image of the divine. So I love the idea that sometimes it's hard for me to connect to God, um, but easier to connect with my own heart, or vice versa. Or it's hard to be in connection with myself, what I'm experiencing, but I can find a pathway of connection to a loved one in this world or beyond. Like whatever path of connection is available, I think it serves a greater sense of connection more expansively. They're woven together.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, when there have been surveys about spirituality and people ask, how surveyors will ask, research will ask how people define spirituality or when they have experiences of spirituality. And a lot of times the word connection comes up, like it's a sense of connection with nature or community or family. Um, and there's something sort of inherent or basic, I think, almost about, that there's connectedness rather than disconnection. Right. And the cutting off of connection we sort of inherently know is is problematic. Now, the nature of that connection is interesting, right? I mean, in monastic traditions, you cut yourself off in order to go deeper into, you know, every saying no can also be an act of saying yes. So it's interesting to sort of mind that, but at the root of it, is this question um, is the question of connection. I see Harris's question. Is Savta related to the Yiddish word for grandfather? Well, the Yiddish word for grandfather that I know is Zaidi, right? So you might be thinking of the Hebrew term for grandmother of Savta. I
Mm.
think Harris may be where you're going. I'm not sure. And no, they're not related.
But
They're,
it's actually, that could be a funny joke.
that would be a funny joke, and it's nice. It's nice to think, but no. One is with a samach and comes from Saba and Savta. And the other is with a tzadi, siva mitzvah and
Mm.
savta. But the that's interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting. So
And I just,
we
I
could
want
work
to,
with that. You could make a
yeah,
nice drasha. Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
And I just want to add, like, I love this idea that is indigenous to our tradition about the way in which connection breeds connection. That mitzvah goreret mitzvah idea, that it pulls in. And I was just thinking about it as I saw you, Josh. I mean, whenever we're on Zoom together, reach out for your cat. And like, I don't have a cat or a dog for that matter. I love animals, but I don't have one of my own. And when I watch, I'm sure I'm not the first to have said this, but when I
Yeah.
see, your cat enter the screen and you gently, lovingly bring them into your lap, I feel that connection, and it warms me in a connective way, even without the cat here. And so I just think we're wired for this. I believe that
Mhm.
God created us this way. We're wired for connection. And the more we bear witness to it in ourselves and in each other, um, the more the more connection we create.
You guys should know that I am not always this affectionate towards the cat. There are times when she incessantly gets on the dinner table, like wanting, like she just gets up and people just we have a little spritzer sometimes because it's just like Trixie, this is not the time, and she just she needs a little reminder, little tough love sometimes.
Chesed
But
and Gevurah. Yeah.
Hassan and Gavura, they work together exactly. Exactly. But that's not on camera. So um, okay, let's see. There were a couple of questions that were not on topic, but because they're questions. Oh, hold on. There's one more. We'll get to the off-topic questions. The immediate question. This is Glenn. Um, okay. Well. Okay. Yeah. Well, language is a form of connection. As the immediate connection across the internal human nervous system does not need the instruction of language, um, and though the nervous system of community is language, okay, this is deep. How do we
Mhm.
return our internal nervous system to beyond language? Ooh, that's Taka question.
I know.
Uh,
I love that.
yeah.
I mean, that to me, that's breath. Like that's life force. That's chayut, chiyut. Um, and in many ways, like a meditation is an invitation into releasing our need to verbally process and name what we know to be true in our bones. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's some good suggestions that are coming up here. Um, And for sure that the this, I mean, this is an essential part of Hasidic teaching for sure, is the limitations. There are both extraordinary things that language can do, and there's a playfulness that we have with language. Even this notion of people are playing with the idea of Savta and Savta and the grandmother and like what those things, and so there's the playfulness around language is really important, and recognizing that there are not everything happens in language. There's pre-verbal and there's post-verbal, and there's a lot of other pieces of living registers that life happens in. And so,
And one thing
absolutely.
I observe in my own practice, maybe this is true for you, is that I often need words to help me enter into my meditation.
Mm,
And if I sit for long enough, the words fall away.
hmm
And I can just drop into a kind of um, being that is freed of those words.
mm,
And so too, I see Barbara's, applying this to the way in which we connect with each other. I mean, I am actually a verbal processor, and I love being able to use words as a bridge of connection to other people. And but often if the connection is deep enough, or um, maybe there's a sustained amount of time for that connection, there is usually a moment where we can just be. There's a
mhm.
companionable silence, a way of being together in which we feel that energetic connection that is beyond words. Um, and that's very precious too.
Yeah. Yeah. And people pointed to some other nonverbal modalities of nigun, or of shofar is one from our own tradition, so, and as is nigun. There was one question, Blima had this question, can you explain the traditional differences of standing or sitting for the Kaddish? In my experience, people who are reciting Kaddish uniformly stand. Some people also sit. Some people will stand even if they're not saying Kaddish. Right? That in some communities, in my community, the custom is everybody stands, but only the mourners recite Kaddish. But that's as far as I'm aware. And so if you're able, that that's that's helpful. Um, Rebecca has this question about how to translate or explain a Shabbat blessing to a non-Jewish family member. I'm not entirely sure, Rebecca, exactly what you mean by that. Um, yeah, not entirely sure there. So if you can offer a little more explanation, we might be able to help answer that. There's I see some good. I find the flow of prayer in English then Hebrew into Nigun and body movement to be the ultimate whole body, soul, mind, heart engagement from Lori. Yeah, that's great. Um, and Glenn, responding to your own question, perhaps the action, if not transactional, looking for response is the completion of beyond nonverbal. If it's just sort of freely offered without an expectation of something in return. Yeah, it's getting into places here around, it sounds like kind of grace and chesed and how we get beyond expectations of response sometimes.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, beautiful. Okay, I think we're at our time. But really want to thank you, Jenny, for your teaching and your guidance today. Thank everybody for their participation. Thanks to Rachel for helping us out in the background with the tech. And then we'll be back here tomorrow, same time and same channel. Okay, so until then, we'll see you soon. Okay,
Thanks, everyone.
bye-bye.